Hey everybody, you're all very welcome to a new episode of Revenue Hacks with me, Khristina, Quigley, in association with RaiseUp. We are so excited to be here today. This is going to be the most amazing episode we've done in a very, very long time. So without further ado, we're going to mention the rest of the panel that's here today. Calvin.
Good morning, everyone. Calvin Tilokee, CEO of Revpar Media. You may know me as Rev Problems on Instagram, and I utilize my social media skills to show hotels how to do that for themselves.
Thibault.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Thibault. I'm the founder and managing director of Catala Consulting. We are an outsourced revenue management company who looks after hotels across Europe. And yeah, quite happy to be here and meet Kim.
It's going to be very exciting. And last but not least, Kim.
Thank you so much, Khristina, Calvin, and Thibault. I'm Kim A. Page. I'm in London, and I'm a communication trainer. I help my clients find the right kind of loud. And the right kind of loud means finding the kind of impact that you're looking for with the audience that you are engaging with.
I love how you just put your intro, Kim, but people don't actually realize that you actually were the queen of Zoominars the whole way through COVID last year. You really helped people embrace life behind the screen and resonate themselves across the screen. And I've been very fortunate to listen to you and see you over the last while. And it's been really interesting to see how you've helped others grow, especially within your community. So well done to you. And I'm so excited to have you on this show today because we're talking about leveraging your voice within the hospitality industry, how you can speak to superiors and also how your superiors can speak to you. Because as we discussed backstage, we've had 18, 19 months of actually sitting in front of a screen and being able to document how we feel or points on paper and by email, but we're just not great at communicating it in person. So Kim, can you talk us through how people can, find their right kind of loud and be able to leverage their voice a lot more within the industry?
Thank you. Are you thinking of through the screen right now, or are you thinking in general?
I think in person and in general right now, because everyone's returning to businesses right now. Mm-hmm. We're all going back to the offices. The rest of the world is now finally reopening after 19 months.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm noticing that a lot of my clients are in the hybrids mode. So that is what's happening. So how do we engage and stay engaged when we have some people in real life and some people on a screen? And I'm just been invited to be keynote speaker at a big conference in Dubai, and I'm going to have a big audience and I'm going to be on screen. So I think this is what's happening. I think there's a basic building block that comes in when it's about getting our message through. And I think the first thing that comes to me is realness. And so what's happening when we engage in front of a screen, it's for a lot of us, we tend to become a little bit mechanical. Like it's a little bit like stiff because it's just not our comfort zone. So figuring out what we need to bring as much of ourselves as we can and we feel comfortable with, of course. And then, of course, the principle of audience awareness. Audience. When I do the preparation process, it's a 5-step process. When you prepare a pitch or a presentation or something like that, the first step is actually the audience. And the first step is not what you're talking about. So being aware of who you are engaging with, what's up for them, what are they troubled by, what's keeping them up at night, and are they tired? Are they not tired? Are they choosing to come in, or are they asked to be present by their manager, which means that's actually not a choice? And just acknowledging as much as we can about them. Those two things I think I will start out with. So realness and audience awareness.
I think that's really important, but for sure, because obviously we need to know who we're speaking to. How would you approach it, Kim, if you were a junior manager or you were a receptionist and you're trying to communicate your ideas to the senior management, be it your line manager or even further up the field? How would you recommend people begin the conversation or their thought process in conveying their own thoughts and their words powerfully, because they might be the people with the best ideas on how to operate the hotel or capture new guests or a new way of dealing with customers?
In most cases, they will be. And in most cases, the managers will think, no, I know everything because I'm the manager. So there's a slight challenge there. Again, audience awareness, figure out as much as you can about this manager. And a crucial thing in today's state of, I would say, almost constant attention deficit that we all have, timing is very important. I have a flashback to one of my first clients in Dubai many years ago, and she was actually working at the Ajman Kempinski. So he was a receptionist. And I was called in to support her, and she said, my boss doesn't listen to me. And she was very, very, very upset. And she had these great ideas. And, I started asking a few questions to uncover her situation. And then after a while, it turned out that she was sitting at her desk and the manager was over there. And when she had the idea, she was kind of screaming across the room. And I was like, wait. Thank you. You see, Kelvin. So when is that person receptive? Finding the right time is very important.
I think that's a very fair point. Sorry to interrupt, because you mentioned about the hierarchy on this one, which can sometimes be a bit a roadblock when it comes to communication. Is it the responsibility of the manager, or is it the responsibility of the staff to kind of break this hierarchy? What do you think it should be like coming from the manager, saying like, I want to have all the staff ideas and involvement, or should it come from the ground up or from the up to the ground in a way?
Well, we operate in the real world, and the world is not the perfect world. So in a perfect world, every manager would know that your team members are an untapped source of diamonds and gold and all the good stuff. That's the perfect world. In a real world, we have these power structures, we have vanity, we have competition, we have bad days and good days. And so for me, it's not about whose responsibility it is. For me, it's more about zooming out from the situation you are in and try to look a little bit at what are the pieces that are in play right here and how can I contribute? And if I'm the junior, again, figuring out as much as I can about that manager, among those pieces, figuring out the timing. And unfortunately, there are some people who are so caught up in the corporate pressure that they're not really very open. Then it's about figuring out how to plant the seed of that idea so they understand that will make them feel better and they will make them look better. So the psychology of that person you're talking to is going to be very important. And again, in a perfect world, every manager will be a coach and a mentor. That's not the real world. So when you are starting out, do your homework of getting to know them as much as possible, and don't internalize the power structure inside your body, right? So that happens a lot, that we internalize these things, and so we feel less than, and we feel like they are more important, and I don't know, I'm not good enough, and all of that. So if we can clean up the inner canals so we don't have that inner hierarchy, and see how can I find the moment and the spot where I can shine the light on my idea, and my manager will understand that that's good for her and him or him.
I love how you said that, Kim, because, we actually have Deirdre Kern joining the show in 2 weeks' time. Deirdre is actually very busy in the chat. So Deirdre, thank you so much for joining Revenue Hacks today. Deirdre is a pioneer in regards to change for hospitality workers. And she did comment there that lots of workers either have a fear of speaking out or worse, and an apathy that things cannot change. And that is so true. We have faced this in the industry for a very, very long time. We feel that our voice is never heard. And that is a very unfortunate thing for people in the industry. And I do like how you said to get to know your managers, or vice versa. I do think that's been taken away a lot because of COVID. I've started a role in the lockdown, and obviously I never got a chance to start to meet people one-on-one, and you were hiding behind Zooms and Teams. And I think that has gone back into the hospitality industry, where I don't think managers anymore look at getting to know their teams. They might know their name. And I remember years ago, I was lucky if someone knew my name. No one could even pronounce my name. At one stage, I was working in a hotel here in Dublin, and I was called Mary. That was my new name, and that was it. And I think that's very unfair. I know, but it's an Irish thing. It's an Irish thing. Everybody is Mary, but it takes away from that. And I do think sometimes managers feel that it's too much of their life to give up to get to know you as a person. So how can you overcome that when you're a manager? How can you switch on that I care about my team mindset, rather than I don't want to know because my life is busy enough and I don't need to know about yours?
Well, I mean, when it comes to motivation, it's very easy. We know, all the research has shown us again and again, that what motivates people is to be able to make a difference and to be given the freedom to do what you, not to be micromanaged, right? And so if I'm a manager and I'm busy, I would say your team is your gold. They are the ones that's going to make this fly or not, or crash. And so by adding a personalization and by letting people really be in charge of what they're doing and by knowing who they are, they will give you 300% more outcome. So, I mean, it sounds maybe a little bit cynical that I'm bringing in like, you know, results from, but I mean, it is proven, right? So if I have some kind of relationship with my leadership and I know that they are seeing what I'm doing and I'm giving the freedom to experiment, do things, I'm going to be so much more motivated. And then when it comes to the means of communication, I've found since the pandemic started and we are engaged in all these Zoom calls and Google Meets and whatever they're called, the old-fashioned phone call has become kind of exclusive. And so when it comes to creating rapport, getting on a phone call is actually kind of a little bit of a special one. And if you do, I recommend you to get up from your desk and leave and walk around. I find myself, if I'm getting on a call and I'm sitting in front of my laptop, not because I'm evil, but because I'm living in 2021, the fingers and the eyes are going to start, you know, swapping and things are going to happen. So if you're the manager and you can get on a phone call once a week with the different people or once every fortnight, and just, you can always have a business topic to start out with, but really what you want is to hear what's going on. And I'm just thinking as managers, the magic is that you have all these people on the ground that are doing stuff and they know what's working. They know what's not working. They know where the problems are. And so and they're not going to tell you that unless you have a safe space and a space where they are feeling that they are heard as a person. And so by investing in that little getting to know them, you're going to have so much more fun and good results.
I have a question because I've heard from, there's a lot of hybrid position now, working from home and working from the office and 3 days here and 2 days here. But a lot of people are saying that it's fine that you are remote, but you may miss some opportunities to grow within the company if you're not in the office and if you don't show up face to face with the team and so on. Is it true? Or is there anything that we can do to still grow within the company and have this kind of network and so on, even if you are remotely based and working from home?
I think there's all models right now. One of the big companies I work with this winter, they decided for the whole company, it's an accounting firm, so they do that kind of work. They actually closed all their offices and became remote permanently. So they have one client office to see offices, and everybody else are actually allowed to work anywhere in the world they want to. So some companies are going there. Some companies are going, everybody's back in the office. And then you have all the hybrid ones. I had a session with Google recently and it was quite hilarious. We were doing a check-in and I had 2 people in one room and the others on the screen. And because I couldn't see those 2 people in the room as separate people, I forgot one of them. And of course, I use that as an example of how sensitive it is what happens now when we come into a hybrid model. I think if you're going to have access to promote your career or not, it's going to depend on a lot of factors. As we know, the relationship with those who are above you is very important. So if you are remote, find ways for them to see what you're doing. Invite them in some way or shape or form. Create sessions where they can participate or send them reports. Get on the call. Make sure that they know. Because a lot of times, you have the personality of, I'm a really good worker and I'm going to let my work speak for itself. And I'm so sorry. That's the perfect world. The real world is not like that. The real world is the more times you're in front of your manager's face and in their attention, the more likely it is that you will get the promotion. So make sure that you are in contact and then again, find out who they are, what they like. Some people like to have long technical reports. Some people like to have conversations. Some people like other things. Figure out what they like.
think that's really important because, as Thibault said, now there's a lot of pressure on people to be back at the office. But also, if you're in a hybrid role, there's a lot of articles out there right now saying that you're not going to be promoted, which is very frustrating for people who log on super early in the morning, log off late at night, but also are very dedicated to their roles. And I think it's just very heartbreaking to see that there's a chance that that's going to be used as an excuse against you as we go into this whole new working environment and dynamic. Kim, the chat box has been exploding 100%. A lot of people are really enjoying this conversation. It is really, really good. And it's really helping people for sure, leveraging. And Adele, thank you so much for your comments, because Adele did mention that, you know, every morning people need to come to the morning meeting with some observations and ideas, and they do need to be listened to. It is so important that we as people need to be listened to. I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't leave my job. I kept leaving jobs every time because I knew I was actually better and I felt that I wasn't being listened to. And I wanted to obviously change roles and whatever over the time. But, you know, it is very frustrating as an employee when you feel that your manager just doesn't resonate with you or wants to have your ideas, where you are at the forefront of the industry. You see customers on a daily basis, whereas sometimes your managers don't. Kim, in your book, The Right Kind of Loud, you mention that body language. Oh, look, here she comes with her book. You mentioned the importance of body language. So can you please tell everybody the importance of body language, from a screen point of view? Because I've noticed, you know, over time since last year, when I first connected with you last summer, when we were on a call with WHTT, which is now Raise Up, the background was completely different. And as you were doing your Zoominars, I could see your background change. You introduced lights, you put a lot more books up there, you have your pictures, you've got everything. So can you talk to us about the importance of using, you know, our hands communication, or eyes, and just body language in general when you're on screen and off screen, so when you're in real life as well?
Hold on, let me sit up straight before she does that. Okay, good.
Well,
Let's make this
before we kicked off this call, Thibault actually mentioned about me speaking quickly. So I've been trying to dial it down ever so slightly. Even though I'm keeping my realness, I've tried to dial it down. So I'm keeping it there. So Kim, I'm not going to do big fish, little fish cardboard box. I've got no coordination for this.
It's so sweet. Thank you for noticing, and thank you for pointing it out. Yeah, when we started last year, I have a picture, a screenshot I took of my first webinar, which was in March last year before London locked down. And I hadn't learned screen presence because I was new. And so what I learned since then, I'll just start with this and I'll go into the nonverbal. So I'll just start with that. So first of all, I have a ring lamp. You can see when I hold my book up, you can see the ring lamp is reflected here, right? There. It's weird. If you look at my face now, it's beautiful sunshine in London today. However, and I have lots of sunlight. However, if I take off the lamp, I don't know if you can see it. It's slightly more dark. Like when I do this, it's a little bit like the face becomes the protagonist. So that's a small thing we can do. And then I learned that I need to put my laptop up so that I'm looking straight. All of us hosts are doing that beautifully. So that because that first photo from March last year, I have the laptop on the table. And so you're really seeing my face and a lot of nostrils because it's on the table. You know, you have to start somewhere. And then also I wasn't aware of the background. And I had a very interesting coaching session this morning with a gentleman, and his background was all white. And if you can type for me, Khristina, in the chat box, if you can type room rater. This is a Twitter account, and it's called Rate My Skype Room. It's a Twitter handle, and it's a couple, a man and a woman. And what they do is they take people's backgrounds and they rate from 1 to 10. And they're quite funny, and you learn a lot about how much we actually see. So what happens when we go from 3 dimensions to 2 dimensions? We're missing connection. And so audio, our voice, and video, how we show up, is even more important because those 2 senses is everything we have. So the moment we log on, our eyes are kind of zigzagging across the screen. They're looking for connection. So you can see, I've tried to do my best. I have my fairy light. Hello. I have my diplomas. I have my TEDx diploma. I have the globe. It's hanging here, right? I have a little bit of glam, of course, right? And I have my books. So the guy I had this morning, he had an all-white background. And the first time I went on Room Rater, they had somebody who had an all-white background. And that was like, rating was 1 on 1 to 10. And then there was one word, hostage. So they're very humoristic. Anyway, it's not about perfection. It's about being aware of when I am showing up on my screen like I am today, I'm inviting all of you into my home office. This is my space. So by being intentional and having some colors and some three-dimensionality, a plant or a vase or a piece of art, or I have Frida Kahlo. She inspired me to move to Mexico and learn Spanish. You see, it's part of who I am. It's my fingerprint. So play around with it. My coaching client this morning, he got a homework, and that was buy yourself a little table and a vase. His office is going to come back in January. I said, how many people are going to look at you during the next 4 months? Be kind to them. So that's just the visual part. When it comes to nonverbal communication or body language, so nonverbal communication is this, and then body language is one of the branches. The voice is also part of nonverbal. So body language is part of it. And as a general, when it comes to, for example, hand gestures, we have different personalities. And realness is so important. It's important that we show up in the way that's natural for us. If you use your hands a lot, fine. If you don't use your hands at all, fine. Your body language and hands and gestures will follow you when you are organically you. And so, I mean, there might be some very strict corporate settings where there's a certain code and you're not supposed to do this or that. However, when I coach people and train people, and what I see as an audience is that we have different styles. So do what is natural for you. There's one detail which is important around facial expressions, and that is it's really disconnecting when the facial expression is different than what I'm saying. Like I had a lady at Stanford a few months ago, and I gave them a storytelling assignment, and she was telling a story, and during the whole story, she had a smile. So she was telling the whole story like this, and the story was very dramatic. There was stuff happening. It was a good story, by the way. But of course, the credibility of the story, like, why are you smiling when you're talking about something that was horrible? So, and also opposite, if you're talking about something, like, try to make sure that your gestures and your facial expressions is following what you're talking about. This happens when we are ourselves, when we feel comfortable. So that is one thing. And then one more thing, and you already mentioned it, Khristina, it's about the speed. I know. And again, it's a continuum, as we talked about being natural and yourself and using the tools. In the world of nonverbal communication, there's something called high status and low status signals. And this comes from, these are the universal signals that all mammals are sending. And the high status signals are the signals that are signaling, I'm going to be the leader individual. And the low status signals are the ones that are signaling, I'm going to let somebody else lead. There's nothing good or bad with these signals. A good communicator knows how to fluctuate. However, when you are speaking to your senior, or you're giving a presentation, or you're hosting a meeting, for you to have a good leadership impact, you want to use the high status signals. And of all the different signals, the one thing that's most important is to be calm. You never see the CEO or a president come running, right? They never stumble. The party starts when they arrive. And so if you can, and I'm sorry, it's all right. And again, doing it our way, of course. So practicing pauses is a really good discipline, because when you're speeding up, you're actually unconsciously signaling that I know I might not have the right time, and like it's actually going down. And I know myself, when I have a lot of butterflies, if I have a keynote or a training that's really high stake, or if something weird has happened, my savior is that I know that I can take those pauses. And of course, during the pause, it's like, oh my God, like 50 choirs are exploding. I just know that helps me ground, and it helps me maintain my leadership. That was a lot. That was a long answer. Hope not too long.
No, Kim, I actually have a question. That's something that came up while you were just speaking. I've been accused of having one of those resting bee faces, which I know is true, because when I tend to concentrate on somebody, I'm like, so it looks like I'm really upset, but I'm really concentrating. So I have to consciously try to not look like that. Do you have tips for people like me, how to not look upset when you're simply just listening?
It's a very beautiful request, my dear. I love it. You know, I would love for you to be able to show up as you. I would just add, just a disclaimer here. If I look really menacing, it's because I'm focusing. I'm really soaking up what you're saying. And by adding that, it's actually a very endearing thing because you're unzipping a little bit and inviting them into your.
Mhm.
This is, of course, if it's appropriate, if you feel comfortable doing it. Because I'm thinking, if you are, attention is difficult to keep, really difficult. So if you're like in the zone and you're soaking something up and you're trying to stay attentive, and in addition, you're going to try to say, I'm not going to start looking like this the way I usually look, that's giving yourself a lot of hard work. So the likelihood of you changing that natural inclination is small. However, by just unzipping, sometimes I also say to people, if you see my forehead a lot, it's because I'm taking notes because I really want to make sure I capture. So I'm just sharing with people what's happening. And then again, it shows the audience that you are audience aware. You think about them. You care about them. And by adding that in your way, you're like, and so if you see that, it's because I really, really am concentrated and I really want to make sure that I capture what you say. So then you're kind of giving them a gift and making them feel important.
I'm literally taking them words, Kim, and I'm going to play them for my husband later on because, like Calvin, I'm always accused of that, or an eye roll. Apparently, I can't see my face, but apparently I do an eye roll all the time. So that's my gift to him today, is your words on that one.
Gosh, and I'm becoming so aware of everything. I don't know where to put my hands or anything. I'm like, fuck, my background is bad, so I don't know what to do.
Well, everybody loves you, and I've already said in true revenue hack style, we're going to pimp you out to help people get their addicts converted and done because you're ready.
That's
for
a
that.
spooky.
So we're all good with that.
That's spooky October. It goes with the theme of the month.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Kim, when we're talking, go on.
No, go ahead.
When we're talking about active listening and we're trying to encourage active listening, how can we encourage our managers and or superiors or friends or CEOs of companies to actually listen to our thoughts? How can we encourage active listening, and how can we switch it on ourselves? Because sometimes we as people only hear what we want to hear.
I'm just taking it in.
Oh, I see what you've done there.
No, I wasn't.
That's in the book. That's in the book.
There's a mindfulness quote that I have from Tara Brach. She's an amazing mindfulness teacher. So multitasking is possible. Multifocus is not. And so a lot of my clients tell me that, they have a company culture where they usually logged on to meetings without their cameras on. And then I'm like, well, the likelihood of people being present is very low, because usually then they will start typing. So then my question is, if it's a one-to-one meeting and you don't share the screen, is there any possibility you can get on a call? Although it's awkward to look at ourselves all day and we're not really neurologically wired, it can be a little bit confrontative. It's still better than people being half present. That's my take. So what can we do to make them listen? I go back to that old-fashioned phone call, if it's possible at all. Figure back to the same timing. When is the right time? Like, some people are more receptive at the end of the workday or at lunch or in the mornings or whatever. Some people are never receptive. Let's be real. Some people are just like, they're just not receptive. Figuring out their style. I know for myself, I'm a wordy kind of person. So when I write emails, I always need to edit a lot out because I kind of write what I think. And I'm a flowery connecting kind of person. So I write, oh, what about this? What about that? And then I'm like, wait a second. People are busy and worn out. What do they really need to know? And then I take out a lot. This is even to friends. I do this because I'm just aware. So there's some people like, they only read the first 2 lines and then they don't read anymore. So figuring out their profile, because if you want to make them listen, you have to start listening yourself first to figure out their profile. For ourselves to listen, I find this, I was referring this morning to my TEDx. I gave a TEDx a few years ago, and I talk about being responsive as one of the things there. And most of the times when we're in a call or a meeting, we're just waiting to say what we're going to say. We're not listening. We're just waiting. When is my moment? Then I'm going to say X, Y, Z, right? And then, of course, if the conversation here, it's like a sacred stream, it's like a river, right? And so when I'm listening, I'm part of the river. I can swim in it. I can be part of it. So then the example I have in the talk is like, what if somebody says something, you have an association? They are in LA. I have some friends in LA. I have to mention my friends in LA. And then if Calvin then continues talking, I'm not listening to Calvin anymore. I just want to talk about my friends. This is a very typical thing. It happens. The point is, when I'm up here, I miss out on the river. By the time I get to mention my friends, maybe the river is somewhere completely different and it's not really relevant. So for me, that capacity to really listen actually taps into quite a deep level, and that is the level of trust. It requires me to trust that whatever association that comes up will come back if it's really important. And to really trust that whatever is happening here in the flow is the most relevant. Sometimes I have pen and paper and I just take a note of whatever it is to make sure I don't forget. And I'll be honest, I've been watching myself and my clients through the whole pandemic. And I mean, the attention deficit is like, I've noticed sometimes during phone calls with people, we write down things during the call because we know that we won't remember it when we hang up. And I also started to notice that when we're going to send links or do things, we do it during the call because our attention is so short, we can't even trust that when we hang up, we will complete the task. And so listening right now has become very, very, very exclusive.
I may say,
tell me.
yeah,
Thibault.
I have to say something. I love your voice. Actually, I could listen to you for hours. I just want to hug you. I don't know if it's, but yeah, I think it's a big coincidence when we talk about webinar about voice. But I must admit that your voice is pitch perfect.
Very soothing.
Now I get all just. Thank you.
You should actually look back on her recap videos about the Zoominars that she's done. Oh my God. I remember every week it was, hello, everyone. And it was just so nice to have that hello, everyone from somebody from the outside when she was doing her recaps. And she'd always finish with her, I hope that you find the right kind of loud. And it just really resonates when you hear Kim's voice just the whole way through. You know, she, even before the call today, we've all experienced it. You know, she has the right tone when it goes up and down, and it just brings a whole new level of excitement to a conversation rather than being so fast and so furious about a conversation to be excited. And it really makes you think properly on how you should be talking to, you know, the rest of us when we're all excited. Because we all know I go a million miles an hour when I'm talking. Kim, Erica did have questions, and I do really like Erica's questions because this is so, so important. What do you think about online meetings without the camera on? Why do people prefer not to be on camera, and how to behave in response? Because this frustrates me. Personally, it's a huge gripe, and I actually have the camera on purposely when people don't have the camera on, because I think in order to have a conversation, you need to see me.
So Erica, thank you. And yes, this is a part of what's been ongoing throughout the whole work from home period. There's a lot of reasons why people don't have their camera on. One, I mean, sometimes literally, like, it's so messy and crazy where they are, so it's not possible. However, then you can, if that's the case, you could do a blur thing, or you can do a virtual background. Sometimes it happens that people have too low Wi-Fi connection, so you know that the connection doesn't carry through. In a perfect world, and I know that the world isn't perfect, but I still have to mention it. In a perfect world, when you call in to a meeting, everybody in that meeting will have their voice heard. Because if not, you know what? You could make a recording and he or she could eat their lunch in peace while they're listening in. This is the perfect world. And I know it's not perfect. And yet I keep saying it because, so if you have a group of people and they're calling in and they're going to speak, the only way to make it happen is to contract about the video use before the meeting. So again, if appropriate, if possible, I suggest finding your way to say, you know, we're in this crazy busy days. I know it's so hard. I notice for me, it's really hard to stay focused because if I don't have focus without the camera on, because it's so tempting to start looking at something else. And I really enjoy seeing people's reaction and know I'd like to see how my message is landing in you. So I know if I need to adjust. Would it be okay? Are you all right with having your camera on? Yeah, and then Erica's writing, one-on-one is possible, but we present a big audience and none of them are on camera. I mean, we have to be graceful, right? But I mean, it's very valid to say in the beginning, I know I'm here for you today. I prepared my talk. I'm really excited. And you know what? It's going to be so much easier for me to connect with you if you're generous and show me your beautiful faces. It's an honest thing. It is. For me, it's much easier to talk on this call than on many others because I have 3 beautiful faces I can look at the whole time. It's super easy. It's like, oh, look at them. They like me. They're listening. Of course, I'm going to stay engaged. If I now, when I had the first masterclasses, Khristina, for Rise Up last spring, and I had slides, the interface was such so that the PowerPoint filled the whole screen. I could only see a green light. I couldn't even see the comments. And this was in the beginning. And my heart went, if that happens, if you're a speaker, the trick is to imagine that on the other side of that green light, somebody who has a million things to choose from has chosen to be with you. Talk to that one person. That's the trick, if that's it. But again, so back to Erica, contract about the video use before you get on the call. And just be honest, it helps me to see you. It helps me stay engaged.
I understand it may add some anxiety for people that have this issue with hair or like makeup or like dressing well and so on. So I may understand sometimes that people don't want to turn on the camera. I will always encourage them to do it, but I will not force it neither, because I understand some of them are a bit, yeah.
And again, there's always a lot of factors that we don't know. When we communicate, we're always in the iceberg area. That's what we choose to say and that we choose to show up with. There's always the hidden part of the iceberg. And of course, we want to be graceful. We don't want to force people. However, we want to invite people and we want to make it clear to them what helps us to connect. Because if I'm logging onto a meeting and you are logging onto a meeting, we have intentions. We're trying to optimize the time we have. We're trying to make sure we get our messages through. And we're also actually trying to have a relationship. And for all those reasons, camera presence is better. So, and again, of course, like if it's a hard, and for the ladies out there, I can't remember, it was a call a while back. And one of the participants, it was for a software company in the Bay Area. And one of the participants, she was calling in, it was like, just like for Calvin, super early. It was like 5 a.m. or something. And she was like, everybody, I have my power set. She'd gone out of bed like 10 minutes before. She had a lipstick and then she had a hat and glasses right next to it. And she had just had the props ready. And for the ladies out there, just the lipstick does it. So it's about finding those small details that helps you stay. Do you have a tip, Calvin?
No, I was just going to say, in case anybody's curious, I still have my pajamas on.
Oh my
God. So anybody wanted to know, it's 5:30 in the morning in LA. I have on a shirt, but I still got on pajamas. So
I was going to say your pajama is actually quite classy if it's your shirt, actually.
Yeah.
It makes us want to cuddle up and give you a big PJ hug. Thank you so much for joining so early. It's so gracious of you, Kelvin.
Yeah, just want to let anybody know. I mean, if you do it, I do it too. Okay, I'm not getting dressed up at 4 a.m. So
you can have a glorious presence. It's shining all the way from LA to all of us.
But we've seen that during COVID, and I think that's really important, that as people were embracing their colleagues and their office workers into their home, half the time we turned up for work on the top half being all functional and business, and then we were a party on the bottom, lounging in the bottom. For me, it was always running gear. I did put a picture up on Revenue Hacks at one stage to show that, but I think that's where we are now. It's a formal / informal setting when we're talking behind the screen. But Kim, you did touch on something really interesting, which was about note taking. I'm a serial note taker, and when I say serial, I almost write down every single word, including the full stop. And it's not just because it's so I don't miss something that's very vital when it comes to the roles. But, we're now in a time where we're jumping. I seem to think, and I seem to find, and I'm sure a lot of people are the same, that because we're working from home a lot more, the whole day is pretty much on calls and Zooms. it's actually more hectic than what it would have been if we were in an office and you're jumping from one call to the next. Do you have any tips on how to manage this, apart from saying to people, I can't meet you, but how to manage all this and take the correct notes rather than writing absolutely everything down at the speed of light?
So I'm hearing two things. I'm hearing about the notes and the one that the meetings are back to back. I can't remember which company it was. It was one company I coached, and they told me that they have the practice of making their meetings either 25 minutes or 50 minutes long, so that there's always that, recharge space. It's talking about listening and attention deficit. It's almost impossible to show up and be present if you go from one space to the next, because your body needs a little bit of space to just zone in and out. So if you can, instead of just saying that you can't show up, if you can make schedules so that you have those 5 or 10 minutes, or even I have one client, she said, no, I need 15 minutes. Okay, fine. Then you have 45 minutes meetings. So if you can schedule it that way, again, the world isn't perfect, but that's great. And note taking, God, yeah. It's a big one. If you're one of those who really like to write long sentences and out and stuff, I mean, that's your personality, Khristina. It's going to be difficult to change your personality. I think it's a practice. If that is your preference and you really like it, maybe just contract so that you have space for it, so that you don't feel too thin stretched. And so say, can I pause you once in a while? Because I want to make sure I really capture. So when I'm just going to tell you once in a while to have a short break. Give yourself space to do what you need. That is what I'm thinking. And then, so that's one. And then on the other end, I'm like, it would maybe be nice for you to find your way of figuring things out in keywords, so that you don't need to take. I mean, my notes this is my notes for my morning session. Right. It's all blurry and weird. It's blurry and weird, but for me, it's enough for me to dilute what I need to send the follow-up comments. Like in this, there's going to be some tasks for next week for my dear presenter. Because I think it's a very personal journey between me and my notes, what I do and what I don't. So more than anything, find the space so that you have the space to do what you need, I think is my reply. Yeah.
I think it's just really important because there is so many people out there right now who are struggling, and we've been doing this for 19 months. Why do we continue to struggle in this world with, organizing everything when our life is so organized, yet our work-life balance it went from a very no work-life balance to kind of now having it. But now as we go back into the office, I think there's a lot more people that's going to feel pressured again. And I think it's for them to use their mind and leverage their voice to be able to convey that, especially because a lot more people are returning to the office right now. Kim, I've just seen someone about Mind Master. How do we become mind readers, or how can we tap into our managers' minds before we finish up the show? What are your tips for tapping into people's minds, or getting them to speak out a little bit more, especially the people that are very introverted, that won't speak or don't want to share their personal lives? Because let's be honest, we work with people. I know people who are so private that even if you mention, how's your kids? It's like, how do you know I have kids?
Oh, wow. Yeah, can be protective as well. Yeah, I'm going to answer. I just want to be conscious of time because it's 45. Do we have 3 more minutes, 2 more minutes?
You can do 3 more. We've got 3 more minutes, yeah?
Okay, good. Because I also want to mention my course, everybody. Okay, good. So sensitivity. It's all about sensitivity. Make yourself porous. Soak them up. And then when you ask questions, anchor questions into what is already happening. So, if you have a project, so what were the unexpected things that happened in this project? Or if I would make you the most proud manager ever as your staff team, what can I do? Or figuring out how to ask questions that are already anchored into what the topic is. And again, going back, it's like there's some themes here. The themes is get to know the manager and figure out their timing profile and their format and channel profile. Do they like a WhatsApp? Do they like a LinkedIn message? Do they like the one-liner emails, the longer emails, the reports? Figuring out their profiles. And then curiosity. The best way. And I mean, be real, be curious. Most people like to share about themselves when they feel like there's a genuine curiosity. And curiosity is like desire. It's not something you can control. You can't tell your brain like now it pays off to be curious. It's a feeling. So whatever stimulates your curiosity in your life, do that. And that can be anything from watching pop videos to going for walks to swimming in a pond. I don't know what it is.
I don't even know how to follow up on that one. You're not catching me in a pond right now. But I do have a question. Thibault, were you in pajamas as well?
You will never know.
Oh, wow. He's not committing 100%.
I'm going to say yes. He's French, so his pajamas are very classy. So I think so.
He's got Hugh Hefner style, so he has the slippers. Right, we've come to the end of today. Kim, thank you so much for joining us. It has been so insightful. A lot of our regular viewers have actually really enjoyed this. There's been so much really good feedback, so you can actually check that in the comments after. If you want to reach out to Kim, I've popped her LinkedIn in the chat box, so please reach out to her directly. Check out her masterclasses that she is coming up. She's working on an ebook right now, but she also has a book out that's on Amazon. You can actually buy it. It's called The Right Kind of Loud. She so rightly put it up there a few times. We never usually do product placement, but this is so important right now for us all to find our voice, to be able to show our opinions, show our voice, and actually be able to use the right body language as well. And, communicate better, either with ourselves, our friends, our family, or even work colleagues through the screen or in person. So thank you so much, Kim. We will be back next week at the same time at 1 p.m. on LinkedIn Live. So be sure to join us.
I want to say last sentence. Last sentence. Yes, I have an online course called The Right Kind of Loud Online, and we're starting in a while. And it's a complete journey when you go through the voice, the body language, the screen presence, the everything and everything. Please reach out if you want to be on the waiting list. Yep. And thank you so much to Khristina. You've made this, and Thibault and Calvin. I've had the best time on the planet. Like, if I could be on sessions like this and be with beautiful people with these kind of questions, I'd show up every day. You've made this a really highlight in my day. So thank you so much. I felt loved, seen, heard, and I hope that I've helped someone out there with some tools that you can use. So thank you ever so much. And the right kind of love to everybody.
Kim. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
My words will never ever leave you in doubt. I don't see what all the fuss is about. I didn't know I had to watch my tongue. Now you know that I'm a loaded gun. Yeah, you know it's true. I'm too taboo.